Virtual cam. Okay, try refreshing again.
There you are.
Does the
There you
audio
are.
work?
I hear you now.
Oh my god. Okay, that was totally my B. I didn't realize I tried to be fancy and record 2 audio tracks at once, and I didn't realize that also messed up the streaming output. So, lesson learned.
Oh, good. We're here.
Oh my god.
Made it.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Thursday, September 24th of Daily Gaming News. I am Kaisa.
And I am Marrone, and we are thankful for all of you sticking through the beginning with us. Because, like I said in the beginning, I was like, I even messed up calling us the wrong name by accident.
Oh, yeah.
But I was like, I've been up since 6:30. Nobody heard it.
Marrone was like, welcome to the Daily Gaming channel. And it's like, well, if something ever happens to Daily Gaming News, we can be the Daily Gaming channel. It totally works out. We've got some cool stuff today. So we're going to start with news about direct PS5 pre-order shipments that will be in waves.
Also going to be talking about that recent update for No Man's Sky Origins, and giant sandworms are a thing.
We're going to cover our On This Day in Gaming segment because it is Thursday.
And then if we have another little bit of time before our interview, we're going to jump into a silly game of the week. But we do have our interview coming up talking about the game Haiku, the robot.
So we'll... Oh, go ahead.
No.
Oh, so we'll be inviting Mr. Morris Games on at 1:30 to talk about his game Haiku the Robot. Thank you, Sequasi, for submitting Mr. Morris Games and this game through our mailbag. Sequasi has backed the Kickstarter for this game. I can link that in the chat. So thank you so much for the recommendation, and it's going to be a ton of fun. And of course, what's in the mug?
What's in the mug? Mine's a little challenging today. So it's not the easy 3 guesses, y'all.
I don't think I've had my drink on this show before, as a hint.
Nice.
I don't think I have.
Dun, dun, dun. And they're going to be like, how many guesses do we have to make? All the guesses.
All the guesses. But let's get right into it with our first topic of the day with direct PS5 pre-order shipments that will be in waves.
So for those who actually managed to secure a PlayStation 5 pre-order directly from the PlayStation website via an invitation, we might want to check our inboxes, as Sony has begun sending out email confirmation for those who are part of their first and second shipment allocations.
The email, which was sent to one Australian consumer, reads as follows. Thank you for your recent order. As you are likely aware, there has been a huge demand for the PlayStation 5 console, and we thank you for your patience. Sony can advise that your order is part of our shipment allocation.
And a few others who managed to pre-order directly from Sony say that they reported to not yet receive those emails. However, there has been a number of individuals on Reddit who have confirmed receiving this email, and some stating that their pre-orders aren't due until December, when the second shipment is expected to go out.
It does go without saying for those first wave shipments that the company has worded the expected delivery to be mid-November, meaning there's a possibility that it may not arrive to buyers' homes on the same day the PS5 launches. As we get closer to launch this November, we do expect to see that be a more definitive arrival date.
So, knowing that the PlayStation 5 will officially be launching on November 12th in the United States, Canada, Japan, Mexico, Australia, New Zealand, and South Korea, and then to the rest of the world on November 19th, I think it's a bit of a bummer for a lot of individuals who were like, yes, I got my pre-order, and now they might have to wait until December to get their console.
It's such a bummer. I really hope that's, not going to be the case. It seems that Sony is really trying to get these PlayStation 5s out quickly to consumers. I hope they are successful in that without, taking too much of a loss. I don't know why they didn't expect a successful launch. I mean, it's a good thing that the PlayStation 5 is doing so well, but I'm like, people wanted this.
Yeah, 100%. And greetings to you, Viderman from Argentina. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much for being part of the DGN channel today. I agree. Like, the hype behind PlayStation 5 was crazy. Like, we just knew that going in. And their botched pre-order, which we've broken down in a previous episode, this kind of response of, like, not having the number expected or not just being like, this is the amount that we can give out. If I'm the person, because I got one through PlayStation, if they're like, hey, you're not getting yours until December, I'll just be like, refund it. I'll just go pick it up on launch day and store, wear my gloves, wear my mask, and, you know, be as safe about it as possible.
Same. I would just try that instead, you know, if my pre-order is going to come too late. You know, with games like Final Fantasy 16, as chat says, with Spider-Man Miles Morales, with all of these massive games, you know, coming out to the PlayStation 5, there is a ton of hype. People are going to be wanting to play those games, especially since some people don't have a lot to do, where this is a great time.
I don't want to hear the other individuals playing the console that I've already paid for and am waiting to have. No, I want it when it's supposed to be there.
Also, thank you for the follow, Mr. Morris Games. Everyone go follow Mr. Morris Games. That's who we're having on our interview later today.
Please go follow Mr. Morris Games. We're really excited to actually talk about his Haiku the Robot.
So, good luck to everyone who pre-ordered a PlayStation 5. Hopefully we see more updates and, you know, more definitive updates of when people are going to be actually getting their consoles. And I hope with this second wave, those deliveries are going to be made on time and people are actually going to be able to buy those consoles if they try to.
I do think about it, though. If that is the case for me, then that just means I'll play more Cyberpunk 2077 until I get the PlayStation 5. So if that is worst case, that's not such a bad worst case. But they should.
Terrible.
I mean, I think they should really find a way to ramp up and make sure that this second wave is maybe 2 weeks off at most from launch day.
And thank you so much, Kane, for gifting that sub to Mr. Morris Games. Hey. Thank you so much. But our next topic is about No Man's Sky Origins as it doubles the game's content.
Yeah, so this was a huge update, and a lot of No Man's Sky players were looking forward to this, and there's actually been some really cool additions. So it's a game that, when it first came out, I think we were all a little underwhelmed. We were excited. We knew the promises that were made by Sean Murray and Hello Games. And it isn't to say it was a technical feat at launch. It just had these promises that were made, and enthusiasm got ahead of all of us. Unfortunately, Hello Games, intentionally or not, set the standard for live service games with constant updates and releases, making No Man's Sky the outstanding title it is now. Introducing the No Man's Sky Origin update has taken it even a bigger step forward.
Put simply, it stated that No Man's Sky Origins is set to effectively double the amount of content within the game, adding new planets, biomes, weather systems, flora and fauna, and so much more. The list is extensive, so we're going to try to break it down into some segments.
So we'll try to move through this. It breaks it down as this. Within Origins, you have planets, stars, and environment. So first and foremost, you have new planets. Existing star systems have new planets within them, and it seems there's also new star systems. Now, some of these new star systems feature rarely occurring binary and ternary stars, giving you something brand new to look at and explore.
It's all good having new planets, but if they're the same as the old ones, does that really offer much more? Well, this is where the large amount of variety added to No Man's Sky Origins comes in. These new worlds can feature a whole new type of vast sweeping vistas, mountains on a scale never seen before in the game too.
And adding to the new topography of these worlds comes new clouds and weather variety. The game has reported a significant improvement on cloud rendering quality, and in a way to add the immersion of the game, cloud coverage and color can vary over time and also be seen from space, matching what you would see from the surface of the planet.
All of this is enhanced by the aptly named Enhanced Terrain Rendering System within the update, designed to make more visually pleasing terrain for you to explore. Furthermore, to make it really pop, there is an increased palette of colors used for planet generation, and those able to play in ultra settings will find increased details of grass and other flora at a distance.
And in keeping with that theme of the weather, planets will also find themselves subject to tornadoes and lightning, which are certainly hazardous if you end up in the middle of them or are struck by one. Now, certain extreme planets may also find themselves subject to firestorms, and things can get really hot when planets feature active volcanoes. Either way, we're looking at some dangerous weather on the surface of these planets, and that's not if you're in a part of the surface not getting slammed by a meteor.
Yeah, there's gonna be meteors! You may be fortunate to see meteor showers flying through the sky, or maybe a solitary one just drifting by. If you're truly unlucky, however, one may come crashing into your planet's surface right where you stand. Though you may be fortunate and have the ability to fly away, because some planets now feature gravitational shifts that could be an impact on, you know, how you can move to avoid that collision.
So whichever condition you look at weather-wise, the game will now let you actually be able to take advantage of it. Be able to mine longer in a blizzard, the weather cooling down your mining beam, The exosuit will process the gas in toxic storms to allow you to sprint for longer, and a superheated atmosphere will allow you to fly for longer with your jetpack. Now, finally, during times of high radioactivity, you'll be able to mine additional substances.
So we already know that this game is teeming with life, but No Man's Sky Origins is looking to expand on this in style. Every planet is said to be more diverse, with a huge range of new flora and curiosities, each offering new combinations. You may find some of this new flora in a brand new marsh biome, where particularly wet areas have formed into swamps or marshes thick with mist and fungal growths.
And this flora is joined by a host of new fauna. There's giant beetles that can be found, as well as huge butterflies that you'll see interacting with the plant life within their world. And these will be joined by a host of new alien wildlife that can be found roaming their worlds, traveling the land in new ways like rolling across it or burrowing underground. All of these are ready for you to be their next meal.
But not all of this will be easy. Giant sandworms can be found under the surface of certain planets, and if anybody will be eaten in this situation, it's gonna be you. You'll want to be careful throughout because all animal wildlife behavior has been improved as well. Animals will group up more, with flocking and herd behavior increased. They will also be more daring, flying creatures coming closer to the surface.
And of course, you can visit all of these areas of life in No Man's Sky Origins. You have new massive buildings that have risen on planets teeming with alien life. They've archived buildings so that it'll point you towards data, treasure, and even long-forgotten ruins. Now, sometimes these ruins will be remnants of life, abandoned and ancient settlements that can be discovered on dead or anomalous planets.
So, regarding an expanded universe, there's still so much more that can be talked about, such as user interface and menu improvements, new NPCs, and a host of new items and crafting opportunities. Adding on to this is an improvement to the lighting of the game, improvements to the photo mode, and of course the stories that you will encounter in No Man's Sky Origins. We could probably go on forever, honestly, there is so much new content to this game.
And to that point, we're going to leave you with this information regarding there's a link to the patch notes. And on top of that, there's a brand new trailer highlighting a lot of these things that's been playing. And what it's showing is undeniably that this is the best live service game ever made. Not only because it's fulfilling the purpose of live service title, but because it's genuinely becoming an outstanding title. The new Origins update is likely to push the boundary even further.
I am just impressed again by No Man's Sky. I feel like they already made No Man's Sky the game that gamers wanted to see, and it was kind of like, cool. It sounded like the developers were moving on to something else. But with this update, it makes me feel like this game is actually going to be, operating for a very long time, that they're going to keep supporting it, that there's still so much left to explore. I think it's really cool that they're adding these like herd behaviors to the animals. I feel like eventually it's going to be, it's going to really set the bar for these types of games. I mean, it already has, but I think it's going to, heighten it even more with, what these developers can bring to this game and what we can actually see from a live service game.
Yeah, and there's not much to be said about a game that comes out and just underperforms, underdelivers, and survives. And the fact that No Man's Sky has survived, and they have the virtual reality aspect of the gameplay experience with this, I mean, just take that in for a moment. You can step off your planet, if you have a PSVR or PC VR, you can step off your ship on a new planet, and this gigantic sandworm can just come up from the earth and like go over top of you as you just stand there and experience this. Now, I've seen the clips of it in third person, but I can only imagine what that is like in a virtual reality type experience.
Right.
And then to have all these other layers with it, you might get hit by a meteor, you might find yourself in a tornado. There's just all this stuff that they've added that truly, like the live service aspect of No Man's Sky. I don't know another game that's delivering on that scale and level right now.
I can't think of one either. I'm just really, glad to see that this game, which is so cool, is becoming even cooler and even more complex. I'm really excited to see, what else is going to be added to this game in the future. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe 6 months from now or a year from now, there's going to be, another major update to this game, and there's going to be even more expansions.
And it makes you go, what does that mean? What does that look like? I mean, they're delivering stuff now that I'm like, I didn't think this was going to be possible. I didn't think we would see this happening with No Man's Sky. Mm-hmm. But if they continue to update this game, is No Man's Sky a title that we potentially talk about in another 5 years? Because it's just like, they're just killing it. They just keep updating stuff. People keep buying it. They keep feeding into the culture and community of No Man's Sky, and we do know the last time we talked about something Hello Games related, they are working on another title right now. So what is that they're working on with all of the success happening with No Man's Sky?
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I fully expect that we're going to be talking about this game in, 5 years from now still. When I think of some games that are still, very successful, like Ark or Warframe, that I'd go to conventions and I'd be like, oh, I don't really know anyone who plays that. My friends would be like, oh, it's an old game, but there's still like a huge community. I'm like, I could see that happening with No Man's Sky, that it's going to have a lot of longevity, that it's going to have, a pretty solid core audience there. And of course, I think it's going to come in and out of being popular. I don't think it's necessarily going to be, a wild hit, in the future, but I think it's going to, continue going strong for a long time and provide a lot of content and value to gamers in the community.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And there is a core audience we've got about 10 minutes before we get Mr. Morris on here and we talk about this wonderful game, Haiku the Robot. It's Thursday, so that means we do our Throwback Thursday on this day in gaming. It turns out that on this day in gaming, Baldur's Gate 2, Shadows of in 2000 dropped.
In 2000! So Baldur's Gate was released 20 years ago, September 24th, 2000. And Baldur's Gate 2, The Shadows of was developed by BioWare and released. It's the second computer role-playing game in the Baldur's Gate series, taking place just a few months after the events of Baldur's Gate. It is based on the second edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons role-playing system. The story is set in the Forgotten Realms, the most popular D&D story setting, and it has sold over 2 million units. Did you play this game, Aaron? Because I didn't.
I didn't, but I've heard of a lot of people have talked about this game, and for me, I played Divinity. That was the most recent one I did, which is like a Baldur's Gate clone. And a lot of people say if you want to know what it's going to be like to play Baldur's Gate 3, go play Divinity, and you'll get that understanding. But this has been that audience that if you think about it, since 2000, like we're going to see Baldur's Gate 3 early access drop here in like a month. I think we're maybe a month out. They've waited 20 years. 20 years to get the continuation of this story and the new graphics and everything. How crazy is that you still have all this hype surrounding this story that's been told and these developers, and they're still just in masses ready for Baldur's Gate 3.
Totally. Let me pull up, the Baldur's Gate 3. There's a gameplay demo that's up so you can just see the difference between, what you just saw on the screen with Baldur's Gate 2, and this is Baldur's Gate 3. I mean, it looks like a totally different game. I never played Baldur's Gate, but I hear, people talk about it all the time in regards to, being a really big staple of, gaming history and, a game that has a big impact, and a game that, that's really popular as well and really fun. This looks fun. I think I'm going to get into it.
If you played D&D or had been interested in playing Dungeons and Dragons, Baldur's Gate is like a pretty much direct feel of what that experience is like to play Dungeons and Dragons. And with Baldur's Gate 3, they've even said that they've expanded on that even more. So what we have is, as we see 20 years ago, the foundation of Baldur's Gate 2 being our previous, iteration in the series, and looking at what it's going to be like for number 3, I mean, we're going to get an at-home experience that, as they were even talking about, the early access that you get is like 30, 40 hours long, and it's just the beginning of the game.
I love Waffle's comment. I really want to play through Baldur's Gate, but I keep getting hung up on min-maxing character creation. I think that games like these are a great way for me to, participate in tabletop type games without actually having a tabletop. I, for some reason, hate card games. Well, besides now poker, but card games are like board games, but I like them when it's in a digital format. I'm like, automate everything for me, keep track of the points for me, with a computer system. I just like that interface a lot more. So I think this is going to be a cool way, for me to kind of get into that and get into that scene more, without having to deal with the logistics of also trying to figure out how to stream a physical game, because that's really difficult.
It is. And to Guff's comment that you mentioned before, the hilariousness of that is usually what a lot of players, when they play D&D for the first time, they're like, how do I maximize the best out of this character as possible? And I think one of the beauties of these types of games is you can take that approach if you want. That freedom of choice is there, but there is a lot of freedom in exploring different characters, different races, different classes, and to not necessarily go too far deep into just one central character like you would in Skyrim, but to play multiple types of characters, going through the same campaign, getting that different type of experience of how you would approach this encounter and that encounter. Because then when you start out that way, at least from my own experience, when you start out that way with these titles, you end up usually having like an idea of what character you do want to play the entire game as, and then you just go back through and set off as that character.
I like Kai's comment. I've never played, I kind of want to try D&D. I think I've always kind of wanted to try D&D, but I never wanted to deal with like getting a group of people together and scheduling everything and carving out the time. I'm very impatient, especially when it comes to games. You know, when people ask me like, hey, do you want to duo in League of Legends? I'm like, I load up my client. I immediately ready up. Like, I don't wait for anyone to join my party. I have no patience for that. So, you know, this seems like a wonderful way for a gamer like me, you know, to also be able to enjoy, you know, D&D type games without having to, you know, like rely on getting everyone together.
100%. And that's a great point you just made, is for a lot of people that maybe go, I'm not going to get the chance to play with a group of friends. I'm not going to get the chance to find a good DM because it's very hard to find. And, you know, and ones that make it fun and entertaining. You play these games like Baldur's Gate 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Divinity. You will find yourself in a position of, this is more catered for me, the solo player, to get the experience like I would have around the table. And be able to understand if I truly would have an appreciation for playing something like the iconic Dungeons and Dragons that set forth every RPG title as we know it.
Totally. I feel like I could, you know, see myself getting into this game. I wonder how much I'm going to be playing it, or how much I think I like the idea of these types of games versus actually enjoying these games. But I'm really curious to see. This looks like it's going to be successful. I mean, the gameplay already looks, you know, great to me, or exactly what I kind of expect or would want to see from a game like this. So, you know, I have high hopes. Happy 20th birthday, Baldur's Gate 2. Happy
20th birthday, Baldur's Gate 2. And to all those Baldur's Gate fans out there, your third one's coming. You didn't wait 2 decades for nothing.
You didn't! So before we get into our interview, we're just going to talk a little bit, you know, about this game, Haiku the Robot, to give you kind of an overview of you know, the game that we're talking about. So it's a 2D action-adventure platformer heavily focused on exploration and set in a post-apocalyptic world of virus-infected robots and machinery. And it reminded me a lot of WALL-E. And some people have kind of described it as being kind of WALL-E-like as well.
I had like Hollow Knight vibes as well. Yeah, it definitely felt like if WALL-E was like a Castlevania or Metroidvania, as it's called, because Haiku the Robot is a 2D Metroidvania set in a land full of adorable yet discomforting robots, hidden secrets and evil, virus-infected machines. The whole game has been made by one human being, one solo developer who is doing all of the pixel art, animation, and programming. And if that's not impressive enough, he had never touched a piece of code in his life until 1 year ago.
I think this is kind of a recurring theme with all of our interviews, that a lot of the people who have come on the show with these games that look fantastic are like, oh, I only recently got into games. Or like, oh, I taught myself how to code.
Yeah. And I was paying attention a little bit to some of that, the Mr. Morris's backstory, and how it was just YouTube being this wonderful tool to educate and to learn from. And I'm just like, that right there is already a great quality to have in becoming a game developer. That ability to problem solve with, you know, how do I learn this faster so that I can achieve my goal that I want to achieve.
Absolutely. So, you know, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat throughout this interview. It's super casual format. We just want to get to know Mr. Morris, chat about the game, chat about indie development. So I'm going to throw up that intro, and then when we come back, we're going to get right into this interview.
Let's do it. Mr. Morris Games, welcome to Daily Gaming News. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Thanks for
Thank you so
coming
much
on
for
the
being here.
show. You're in a different part of the world than us, aren't you? We're in Pacific time.
Yeah, it's about 11:30 at night here. So
Wow.
Oh, thank you for
I'm ready
staying
to go
up
bed.
late.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us so late
We'll
at
try
night.
not to keep you up for too long.
Yes.
Nah, it's fine. It's fine.
So could you introduce yourself to the chat and tell us a little bit about your game, Haiku the Robot?
Yeah, sure. So you don't have to keep calling me Mr. Morris.
Okay.
My real name's Jordan. So that will
Jordan.
do. Yeah. So Haiku the Robot is a 2D Metroidvania, as Maroon said earlier, and I just loved the idea of like building this whole world that people can just kind of explore and get kind of lost in, right?
Mhm.
So I think you have to kind of go off of your strengths, and obviously coding isn't one of my strengths, so I might as well go off world building. And yeah, so I've been like making the game by myself. I do all the art, animation, and all the coding. So that's basically me.
Can you
And
tell
Awesome.
us a little bit about, how you learned to code? Was it easier than you expected? More difficult?
Yeah, so like I had no idea what went through my mind, to be honest. Like I just had like a really bad day at work, and I got home and I was just like, you know what? I want to make a game. Like
Yeah.
most of
That
randomest
was
thing
the
ever.
love
drive.
that.
That was the motivation. I love it.
Yeah, it was.
That's
But
cool.
like I mean, like it's always kind of been a dream, right? I think for many
Mhm.
people to kind of make a game,
Yeah.
but for some reason I just had such a bad day at work that it just pushed me to Google how to make a video game on YouTube, and that's it.
Wow.
I would say it's hard at the beginning because
Mhm.
you don't know like what you're doing at all.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You're just like blindly following a tutorial that might be 20 minutes long, but it takes you like 2 hours because
Right.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Were you in the and I guess I would ask, like, because looking at the game and watching it being played and just getting the overall feel from it, like, did you just recently watch Wall-E, or what was it? Because there is this essence to what I see this world as, and I'm like, I wonder if there was just what had been going on in your head for this reality to kind of take place for Haiku.
So I hadn't watched Wall-E until recently. I think it was only
wow.
like this summer that we watched it
No
because
way, that's awesome.
because everybody kept saying like, oh, it's basically like, Hollow Knight but Wall-E or something.
Right.
That
Yeah.
was my first impression. Yeah.
So we were like, I was like talking to my partner. I said, I think we should watch this movie, and it's a great movie. So if you
Yeah,
haven't watched it,
it
definitely
is.
watch it.
That's why I was like, oh, it's like the dark take on Wall, like the even darker, take on
yeah,
Wall-E. Yeah.
But actually, it was from Alita Battle Angel.
Oh,
like,
nice.
the idea
Oh.
of, like this robot getting found in this like trash area and then repaired. I just thought that was like a really, really nice idea. Unfortunately, it didn't quite transfer over into the final sort of project, but it was definitely, that was the starting point, I would say.
Cool.
I wanted to ask, what were your inspirations for the art style? Because I just really love the aesthetic, and I think, it looks really great. Was there anything, specific that you drew from for that?
I don't know if like anything specific, so to say, but like just a retro sort of vibe to it, like this monochrome.
Yeah.
I just really, really wanted to go back to
Mm-hmm.
because I would say I grew up on like the Game Boy and Game Boy
Yeah.
Color, so I like that sort of visual style.
Yeah.
It's
'Cause there are
very
touches of
hashtag
color
aesthetic.
here and there,
Yeah.
but you have a primary color palette that you it looks like you pretty much use the entire experience, which just
Yeah,
adds that
yeah.
character to it. Like your world is a character as much as Haiku is a character.
Yeah, well, I hope so.
I wanted to ask about some of these, creatures that you have in the game. They're so cool, and when I first came across, this one in the demo, I didn't expect it to, crawl around the whole thing. How did you come up with, some of these monsters that you come across?
Most of them are based off of like everyday objects, right? So like the little one that just ran past now is like a little Roomba.
It is a Roomba.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like,
curious.
that's like a deadly Roomba, and you're like, yep, it is. Cool, great.
Because I just loved this idea of like this Roomba that was just aimlessly trying to clean the garbage area all the time. Like, you're a bit like Wally, actually.
Right,
like,
Yeah, that little tiny one who's cleaning everywhere and following the tracks that he leaves. Yeah.
Exactly.
Totally.
So yeah, it's mainly just like everyday objects. I try to keep it like one theme and just follow that theme.
Can I ask about the title of the game? Why is it called Haiku?
So originally, I wanted Haiku only to speak in haikus.
Oh,
But
I was
I
about
don't
to
know,
ask.
I don't know if you've seen like Transformers where Bumblebee can only use the radio and
Right.
stuff like that. Like something similar to that, I thought would be really cool. But I think, yeah, I kind of removed it in the end
Yeah.
because like this
It's got to be very challenging.
This yeah, apart from that,
Yeah.
but like the character that kind of doesn't talk is always kind of more mysterious, and I think that fits the Metroid sort of vibe.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. How many iterations? How long was it before people picked up on Samus? You know what I mean? Like, in terms of like who Samus actually was, there's so much to that silent protagonist that allows the player to make it their own experience. That when the storyteller's like, it's this, you're like, oh, okay.
yeah, I mean, I really like that part of Hollow Knight as well, where it just leaves so much up for interpretation. Like, it really allows you to use your imagination and make it your own.
Would you say that, with this game that that is up to, the player to have their imagination, or is there a lot of like story that's interwoven?
Yeah, there will be story, like, but I like to think that I would just leave like the world as more of like a place where you can interpret like what and like why is it like this and stuff like that. But like the story, like I have a storyline for the game, so
Right.
Very
That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
Can you give us kind of like a little bit of a backstory of your gaming experience? I know you mentioned Game Boy and you mentioned Game Boy Color, but what were some of the favorite games that you like grew up on that maybe when people go through and they play this, they'll see those inspirations in those moments?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit different because I just love Pokemon. Like
Yes.
Recently, I've just been thinking, why didn't I make a Pokemon game? But,
Yeah, right.
But like, you could argue, and I've made this argument in my head already, that Pokemon is kind of a Metroidvania. Like you can't progress until one of your Pokemons have like a certain ability. Like I remember there was like Cut and Flash and Rock Push and all these sort of abilities, right? So if you think about it and you take it, a bit out there, then
you can make the argument. I see what you're doing there.
Yeah, I love Pokemon. Like I remember sitting in like the back of the car, because the thing, like the Game Boy Color wasn't like backlit, right?
Right.
So I'd be like right next to the.
Or you get the attachment that hangs over.
I had the attachments.
I did too. Yeah.
I would sit right next to the window and wait until a street lamp went past, so I could make like my next move, and then wait till the next street lamp went past and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
That's OG Game Boy life right there. If anybody describes that experience, because there's times where you just don't have enough lighting to actually make out what it is that you're seeing, and you're like, guess I gotta wait.
Right.
Yeah. So like I have fond memories of the Game Boy and Pokemon in particular.
What have been some of your favorite parts of the game to work on so far?
I would say it's like my favorite and kind of not my favorite. It's difficult. Like there are parts which you really enjoy when you're in the mood, and then parts which you don't enjoy when you're not in the mood.
Yeah.
It's kind of very motivational based, I find. Yeah. But making the boss was so much fun because I had like a few months before that I actually tried making a boss and I failed terribly. Like where you kind of like I was still learning the ropes and I still am, but like I kind of think I just tried a little bit too hard, like out of my abilities, or what was then my abilities. But coming back to that and then making like a nice solid boss fight was so rewarding. Like, and it's super fun to like come up with boss fights and like different attack patterns and all sorts of stuff.
Nice. Was the Mother Tire one of the boss fights?
Yeah.
I saw this tweet that she was accidentally deleted. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so as I was like just polishing the demo, like I had like the main bosses kind of down, but I just needed to add like a few triggers and a few endings and like small polishes and details. But when I went to try and find Mother Tire, I just couldn't find her anywhere. I still haven't found her. Like, so I just think
lost.
I must have deleted her.
Oh wow!
There's no other explanation.
Mother Tire, no.
So sad.
I literally search the entire folder and I just can't find her. So
Is she in the lore still? Like, do we hear about her?
No, she'll definitely be in the game. I just have to like redo it. But
okay, got it. I was like, she's gone, but people talk about her. Maybe she'll be like a DLC down the road someday. Build this hype around Mother Tire.
Yeah, maybe. But she will be in the game. Like, I still have all of the art and animations and stuff like that. So it would kind of be a waste not to put her in.
Yeah.
True.
So how long now have you actually been working on Haiku since you began from that YouTube video to like today?
So like, I think literally when I finished that YouTube video, I had an idea that I wanted to make a bigger game, right? Like, even though everybody says don't make a bigger game, I at least just started. So I made like a few characters, you know, I kind of started making a social media account and put them on social media just to see, like, kind of just to test the waters, I would say.
Yeah.
But I didn't actually start off big. I still like followed everybody's advice to start small. I made a bunch of small games which are just horrible, buggy, and just, like, you press the jump button and he jumps like 5 seconds later, and you know, it's kind of challenges the player to really think ahead, you know. And but after a few small games, then I think I made about 7 smaller games, like including some game jams and stuff like that.
Nice.
And then I switched my focus back to Haiku.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere, you know, creating these smaller games. How small were these smaller games? Because when I hear about people creating their own games, they think that they're making a small game, but it actually ends up being a big endeavor.
It really like ranges. I think I don't know if you guys are into like anime and stuff like that. But
I like anime.
I just finished watching One Punch Man and I was like, oh man,
nice.
this would make an amazing endless runner, you know, just one punch all the enemies away. So
Looking for that one enemy or opponent in the world of just endless combat. That's a great idea.
Yeah, so I made that and then I put it on Android. It lasted about a month or two until it got taken down for copyright.
Oh no! That's a long time to stay up, though.
I had no idea about this sort of stuff, so I was just thinking, why not put it up there?
Well, I love that, by the way, because that is the whole learn by experience, learn by
exactly,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And there's people that they come into DGN and some of our DGN family that are here all the time that have mentioned the desire to get into game development, and you've just spoken on some things there, and one of the things that I'd like you to kind of, sometimes people just need the reality of what it's like, right? And maybe just hit us with a little bit of the truth of how you should manage your expectations and where you should take your passion when going into this realm of game development.
Yeah, so like when I first started and I made this first game on YouTube and stuff like that, you literally follow the tutorial like letter by letter when coding, and you have no idea what's going on. So it slowly gets to you because you do a few tutorials, you try your own thing where you're mashing tutorials together, and you still don't know what's going on, and stuff doesn't work, and you just start to get this feeling that what am I doing? Like, I don't know how to code, like, why am I doing this? So like this imposter syndrome like starts hitting really hard.
Yeah.
But luckily for me, I found a smaller game engine which basically makes like Game Boy games, but you don't have to worry about the code.
Oh wow.
Nice.
So for me, that was like I look back now and I realized that was like a turning point for me, because it still had like the logic of coding, so you still had like if statements and like triggers that would make certain actions happen. So it was kind of nice to just focus on that logical part without
Right.
having to worry about the code. And then when I went back to like trying to code, it kind of started making more sense. And like it's definitely a process. Like it takes time. And like I was mentioning before with the boss, sometimes you bite off more than you can chew, and it is a bit demotivating. And you just have to realize you have to like take a step back, continue doing what like slowly pushing it further and further out. And then one day you will actually get there. Like you will be able to achieve what you had set out to achieve at the beginning. It just takes time.
Isn't that just like an actual boss fight in a game?
That was a great parallel.
Yeah, it is actually. That's a great reference.
Yeah, that's cool. I love hearing that kind of stuff. It just made me think about like any time I played a game and I was like, I can't beat this level.
Yeah, I know, right? Like when you get that's a good boss from like my books. Is like when you think, oh my god, how the hell am I gonna beat this? And then you do it, and then like just through like
that dopamine release,
consistency.
you're like, I can climb Mount Everest.
Right, I can do anything.
Yeah.
So I know it's just you working on this game. So in the pandemic, I mean, it's still just you working on the game. But has that changed? You talked about game jams. Like, are those not really happening, or has marketing the game been different? Have you noticed, a lot of changes?
It's actually interesting that you asked this question, because like I'll go one by one. So like I am a solo developer. I do have a guy that helps me with the music and the sound effects.
Cool.
Because I tried that and I just absolutely suck at making music. That is so hard. It's really hard.
It really is.
So luckily I have somebody helping with that. But for me personally, being locked in the house was kind of great, because I had an excuse for my partner not to leave the house and to just code.
There we go.
So she was kind of unhappy, but I was okay with it. So, but after a while, obviously, like the lockdown kind of affects people in different ways, right? So, like I still obviously had to compromise and go out, and make sure that her sanity was okay, and all of this.
Totally.
But when you talk about social media, then. Because I had been posting consistently for approximately 7 months, I think. And I would say like I had quite a steady growing during those months, like the first months. But as soon as the pandemic hit and everybody was in quarantine, like everything just blew up, like on social media. Because like if you think about it, people are just at home. They can't really leave the house. They're probably refreshing their feed all the time. And it honestly, like it's kind of bad to say because it's such a sad situation, but it's like it actually helped my social media accounts. It's really weird.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. It's a good time for, gaming, and for people creating content online is the one positive thing, we can take from this situation. We've got to just make the best of it.
Yeah, and something you were just mentioning too, but I'm actually curious about when you went and put out your demo, right? So leading up, you had this interest, you were starting to grow in that social media recognition, and of course you're talking about a genre of game that's been around for quite some time and has had an impact on many gamers. So there are people who play these type of games looking for these specific type of games to jump into and to play. What was it like getting your demo ready, knowing you were about to put it out there, and waiting for the response versus just watching a video of either you playing it or someone else?
Oh, it was absolutely horrible. Like, no jokes. Because I know I'm aware of like Hollow Knight and how big that is.
Yeah.
And I'm also just so aware of trying not to copy Hollow Knight, because there's nothing worse than putting like all of your, you know, time, energy, effort into this thing, and then somebody just and it's like just a random comment on social media, right? That anybody can do, but at that moment, it just got to me, and it was just like, oh, this is Hollow Knight reskinned as Wally, and I was just like,
that's not what you want to hear.
No. So like, I have been wary of not copying it, but I was super anxious about how people would receive the demo. But you know, I just thought to myself, if you don't ever put it out there, then you're never gonna know, right? So
it's true.
You just have to kind of bite the bullet and just pray for the and it, like, if it's bad, then it's a lesson learned still, you know. Like that's
how
that's
relieving
just
was it though when you started to get the initial feedback? Because initial feedback seemed very strong, and I'm
positive,
motivating, right?
I'm still just blown away. Like, I honestly, like, I think if I was to count the comments and like actually go deep into like analyzing it, I reckon it's like a 99% positive and a 1% negative, which is just like
humanity.
Insane.
It's normal humanity.
It's really insane. Like, I'm just overwhelmed, honestly. Like I can't even explain it with words, honestly.
That's great.
It's just, especially because it's like the first time I do this thing, so it's
That's wonderful.
I was gonna say, in regards to that, you also got some hate for how good you are at coding, because some Reddit mods removed your post because they didn't believe you'd only been coding for a year.
Yeah. They kind of, this guy kind of went on a bit of a witch hunt as well.
No.
Yeah, which is like, this was literally like maybe my second post that I ever made in Reddit, you know. So you know, I was really just trying to get into the community, and people have warned me that they don't like self-promotion and stuff like this on Reddit.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's fair enough, right?
Right.
But so I was thinking, okay, so how can I provide value to the community while still kind of, you know, if you are interested, then check out the game, right? So I thought I'd write like a blog post style of like an article where, you know, I just go over how I got started, like from that first video that I watched on YouTube to that game engine where you didn't have to worry about code, like, you know, all the way throughout. And some guy within like, I posted it, I did something else for 30 minutes, I came back, it was deleted. Some guy was going off like on some massive rant about how this is impossible and it's just all self-promoting, and
oh my god,
he found some link by some guy which is also called Jordan Morris, that in 2012 he was trying to make a 2D platformer. So he was just like,
just not possible. There's not another Jordan Morris out there trying to do a game. Just not possible.
And then he was like, prove me wrong. And I'm like, well,
oh gosh,
how can I prove you wrong? I mean, I can't prove you that link is wrong. Right. I can't do anything in that situation. The mods had already taken it down. And again, like, this was my second Reddit post, so I was kind of a bit, I didn't know how to feel, you know, because obviously, like you said, it's a bit of a compliment, but still, it's like being called out as a liar is kind of like, whoa, what the hell, man?
Excuse you? Yeah. How
totally.
dare you?
At least,
especially in like the game dev Reddit, which is like, you know, with people who are in the same position as you and
should understand, you know.
Yeah.
Have you thought about doing an AMA and then getting somebody to comment the game dev subreddit so that they can get linked to the AMA?
I haven't. I'm just a total noob to Reddit, so you'll have to message me later on how to do that.
And ask me anything. But then you just get somebody to randomly tag them in the post so that they would be drawn to seeing you answer these questions. It's a way to troll them. I'm just giving you tools to troll them is basically what I'm thinking of.
Like, luckily, the like when I posted on Twitter like that they removed it, because I was kind of in shock, and I felt like
Yeah.
I needed some moral support at that point.
Yeah.
The Twitter community just absolutely destroyed the guy, so they
Yes.
destroyed him. So that made me feel a
Twitter
lot better,
versus Reddit.
basically. But then, like a few weeks later, some guy actually digged a bit deeper into that profile, and they had created that profile in 2000, no,
wow.
2003.
Oh.
So they tagged me saying, "Yo, how old were you in 2000?" And I was like 10 years old, you know, I was still playing Pokemon on the Game Boy. What the hell?
Waiting for that street light to go by.
Right, yeah. At least some good came out of it. Sequasi in the chat, who actually recommended you to us, said that that tweet is what made you back up the project because they felt sad when the post was deleted. So they thought it was inspiring, you know, that you had this Kickstarter up and you were like still going at it.
That's awesome. Now,
Well,
something
you know
I
what
want
they
to
say, right? Sorry, go on.
No. Say what you're gonna say. I can ask mine.
I was just gonna say, you know, like any publicity is good publicity, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's a way to take something bad, turn it into good, especially when you're in the right. You know, your art style is very. I don't know what other word to use, but like wholesome and adorable. And even though the environment has that kind of darkness element to it, do you intend on continuing to make more games with that type of vibe? Is that something that you connect with and you feel like will be maybe an artistic touch of yours as you grow as a developer?
It could be.
Because I love it. Like I love the little
great.
eyes of Haiku behind you. And they just grab me every time I look at his little face.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. Like, I try not to think of future games too much because I just want to get this one done.
Yeah. You're the
'Cause,
first
like-
game dev to say that, by the way. Because all the other
Yeah.
ones
Oh,
we've talked
that's
to have always been,
true.
all we do is think about the next game that we
Oh my
want to make.
gosh.
Yeah, but I feel like if I want to get this done in a reasonable time, and I shouldn't focus too much away from this, and I should try and keep things as simple as possible, be consistent, you know, have like this, you know, like this kind of vision, this true North Star that, you know, whenever you get lost, you can just look back at and just keep going towards that path sort of thing. Because it's so easy just to, to get like new ideas. Like I've stopped watching these game jam videos where they like recap what the Game Maker Toolkit game jam was, like the best videos, because whenever you watch them videos, you're just like, oh, that's cool. I can make a whole game of that.
Right,
So I've like stopped watching those completely.
That's hilarious.
But like, I have thought of different games. Like, I mean, Pokemon game would be amazing, but
Right?
yeah. And
Mr. Morse's Temtem, so to speak.
like, have you seen like
It's the copyright.
Ooblets?
You got to look out for the copyright.
Have we seen what?
Have you seen Ooblets that came out?
No.
Like-
I've heard of it, I think.
It's like it's like growing Pokemon out of the ground. It's so cute. It's
Really?
it's amazing.
Ooblets. Gotta check that one out.
Already looking into it. Oh, wow.
Right?
Wait,
It
so
is
you've got
so
like a little
cute.
farm and you grow, like, oh, wow, you're
Ah.
literally growing them. Yeah, when you were like, you grow them out of the ground, it was like, what? Oh, wow, no, you mean like a plant.
Yeah. You water them and they grow and then they follow
That's-
you around and
Oh,
stuff.
my God.
So cute.
That's so wholesome. So I know this game was developed on Unity, right? Is Unity the program you're talking about where you don't need to, you know, focus on the code so much? Or is
No,
that
that
something
one's
else?
That one's called GB Studio, so like Game Boy
GB
Studio.
Studios.
And they released an update recently where they now allow color and they also have platforming. So like they've released this huge update. And when I see the update, I'm just so tempted to go in and just check it out and make some other
Yeah.
sort of game. But I'm like, no.
That's
Like,
awesome.
it looks really good. So like if
For anybody
anybody,
in chat considering it, GB Studio, Game Boy Studio.
yep, exactly that. It's amazing. I recommend it.
Well, I'm starting to see that too as well. I don't know if that's the case growing into, you know, Unity, and you'd have better knowledge of that than I, but the things that we've been hearing about the next gen consoles, game development in general, is getting to the place where it's becoming easier to develop because they're basically trying to get rid of like having to worry about the code, and all of that's already taken care of by, you know, an AI that's just like waiting for you to say, what do you want? You want a house? Cool, I've got houses for you to pick from. You want this person? I've got people for you to pick from, and then go from there. Is is that something that you find appealing, like as you grow, like you're like, yes, less work for me I have to do on the front end and more of just focusing on making an awesome game and telling an awesome story?
Yeah, totally. Like when I started, I started with scripting and learning C# and stuff like this, and that's what I feel more comfortable with at the moment. But since then, since like a year ago, Unity has picked up. It's like previously it was an asset that you could buy, which is visual scripting. So you don't even have to like get into the code like to write. You would have like this kind of box that you link up to another box, and like you kind of do everything like that. So it's very, very visual, where it's like, one action could be like press button down and then it jumps, like, so
Cool.
it's definitely becoming more accessible. And I somebody just said like a flowchart, and it's exactly like a flowchart.
That's
I just saw it. But yeah, I think it's great. Like thing accessibility and stuff like this is amazing, because then it just breaks down that barrier of entry, right? So then like, you could be the most amazing artist or storyteller, but just because you can't code, you'd be off put by it, So now it's like much more easier for these type of people to get into it and make awesome games, I think.
Yeah.
Totally. Since we're getting near the end, can you tell us a little bit about your Kickstarter? Because you're really close to your goal, right?
Yeah, it's I don't know, man. It's this whole experience has just been crazy, honestly. Like it still has 2 weeks. It's exactly 14 days to go, and it's already over 80% funded, which is just insane.
Nice.
Like I thought I was setting the bar rather high, because like the funding goal, because I was thinking I might as well set it high so I can actually have a full year to work on it, rather than set it low and only have 6 months and then be stressed to try and like finish it in 6 months. And if it didn't get funded, then just take it as like, another lesson, and that's it. But luckily it's been going really well. So I'm super happy about that. But yeah, there's plenty of tiers that you can buy. You can just like get the game all the way up to like designing your own boss, character, enemies, and stuff like that.
I saw that and I was like, that's a cool idea.
That's cool.
I think my favorite is the character, because you could just go like in so many directions with it, like, so that's one that really excites me. But there's merch as well. I actually don't have any here with me at hand.
I saw some on your Twitter. It looks super cool. There's like socks with like the art style on it.
It's awesome.
Yep, there's socks, mugs, and then your typical T-shirt.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. And where can people find you on social media? We linked up your Kickstarter in the chat.
So I do have Instagram, Twitter, all that sort of stuff. It's linked from the Kickstarter anyway, if you go like to the bottom.
Cool.
So you can find it all there. But I see KAISA'S already.
Yeah, don't mind me link spamming.
Just kind of link spam the chat so more people can follow you and support
Moderator,
you.
can we put a pause on that person?
Is it gonna ban on Kaisa?
But seriously though, Jordan, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you
on
so
and,
much.
Daily Gaming News and chatting about Haiku the robot. I'm super excited for you. I think your story is one of those stories that'll continue to encourage people to do this and to break into it, and be one of those individuals to help people be less fearful of the uphill battle that is game developing, but to see like, hey, if this guy can follow a YouTube video and learn pixel art for the first time, I can too.
Yeah, I just hope that that's the case, that people can resonate with that and even kind of be inspired by it a little bit, to try it themselves. But thanks for having me. It's been absolutely amazing. I can't even believe why I was so nervous at the beginning.
Right?
We're so glad to have you on. This is super inspiring. I have a lot of respect for, you and your drive and your ambition and, how hard you work on this game. But thank you, everyone in the chat, for joining us as well for Daily Gaming News. We're going to be posting this VOD. If you missed any part of it, you're going to be able to catch it on YouTube. Of course, make sure you follow Mr. Morris Games on Twitter. That's his tag. That's his username.
Yeah.
And
Can
our
we have
YouTube
you back
as
on
well.
when the game comes out?
Ooh.
You can have me back on whenever. Like,
Yeah.
We'll hold you to it. We'll hold you to
anytime,
it.
anytime. Honestly, it's been such a pleasure. I will not mind coming back on at all.
Absolutely.
Any
We
day
love
of the
it.
week.
We love it. Thank you so
Even
much.
if
Jordan.
it's at 12 o'clock at night.
Dude, we're gonna just be like Mr. Morris Mondays. There we go. It's just like, wait, is he now permanent? We held him to it.
Thank you so much, everyone, for Daily Gaming News this September 24th. This is Mr. Morris Games. I am Kaisa.
I am Marrone, and we will see you all next week.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.